guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Should we just speed up the decline at this point? Should we just say, you know what? All right, let's lean into it. Let's just get this to the bottom. Kind of like pulling a tooth, right? Just yank it out, deal with it, and move on. Now, this is more kind of a video about what's a good way I can put this? Is more of a video. I don't think we should do any of these things, mind you, but it's an interesting thing to think about. That it's almost like a struggle session where the longer we fight the craziness, the tougher it's going to be. I think we do need to push back against this stuff, obviously, but are there times we could actually lean into it and help hasten things to the end? Meaning we're going to have to make them. And when I say them, the ones that are pushing us in this direction, should we just lean into it and help the decline by facilitating it? Here's a case in point. Now, I know many of you don't come here for politics, so this is not anything at all about politics. Let me just make that very, very clear. But I am going to use Donald Trump as an example because I think what he did in this situation is exactly what I'm trying to relate to you guys. Here's my point. When Trump purchased and rebuilt Mar-A-Lago, the Grand Mission and estate in Palm Beach, he got into a dispute with the city. And now this is coming from Snopes, and they're very left-leaning, and they even say, hey, this is a story that's mostly true. So if they could debunk this, trust me, they would. They'd try their hardest. So he got into a dispute with the city, who are well known for being strict on zoning regulations. Trump put up a 50-foot flagpole, even though 30 foot is the maximum allowed. The city imposed a $1,000 fine per day. While Trump and the city argued back and forth, finally, when the fine had reached $120,000, Trump proposed a solution. He would donate that amount to the veterans organizations and would move the flag and the pole to a different location in front of the mansion and would only use a 30-foot pole or flagpole. So the city says, okay, you can only have 30 feet. Trump says, I want 50. He does it. He gets fined $1,000 a day. And finally he says, fine, you win. I'll move it and I'll only use a 30-foot pole. They say, fine. Done and done. They say the city agreed. So Trump brought in a company who does golf course construction and had them built a 20-foot high grassy hill and put his 30-foot flagpole on top of it. Now, what is the point of me reading this story? And I've got many more to talk about, many other instances. What is the point of this? That when Trump tried to fight, quote, the laws and the systems that were being put in place, he lost and he got fined. And it would have cost him $120,000. Now, he paid the $120,000, but he donated it to a good cause instead. So then he decided to play by their rules, which is a 30-foot pole. They didn't say anything about how high the ground level could be, and so he just put up a big grassy hill that was 20 feet high and put a 30-foot flagpole on top of it. He was within the law, but he got what he wanted, which was a 50-foot flag up in the air, or flagpole. He won by leaning into the laws and the craziness. The reason why I bring this story up is because right now everything is going crazy. And if you say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing, you're going to be railed against for this, right? We know how this is, especially with the LDHD TV and all women stunning and brave. And what if we started leaning into this stuff? Here's the other, and I don't mean that you don't have to fight back against it, but Trump did fight it, and he still got what he wanted out of it. And this is why, here's some other examples of why I'm talking about this stuff. Woke scientists propose replacing female with egg producing in order to mitigate harm and avoid emphasizing heteronormative views. And this is from Rebel News. So now critics are warning that the abandoning traditional terms could lead to a lack of precision in science as well as confusion. Well, okay, we could scream and we can fight about it, but what if we lean into it? What if we say, okay, let's do this. From now on, females will be identified as egg producers. Okay, so when a woman's 50 years old or older, she's not an egg producing anymore. So that means she's not a woman then, right? Well, I mean, it's your rules. I'm trying to figure it out. If we do this, then they're going to have to come out and say, well, what we really meant to say was people that either do produce eggs or used to produce eggs. That's really what we meant. And so, okay, you see how it starts getting a little bit confusing. Then they're going to have to go back and say, well, okay, what we really meant to say. And the more times that we do that to these people, the more times that they have to correct themselves and rewrite everything, the more ridiculous they look. That's the great news. And the other way, too, is this identifies the crazies. So that if you go into a doctor and you're a woman and he refers to you instead of female, he refers to you as an egg producer, you know that you can walk away and not give that business your money or give that doctor your money. If you go in and they have on a form, they ask you if you're this, that, or the other thing, you know, hey, maybe this is a place I don't want to be. It forces them to be so weird and so crazy that they're easily identified. And that's really what we want to do, right? We want to kind of identify the crazy so we can avoid it. So let's lean into this. And that way, when you've got dating apps out there, any guys that are still out there dating or doing it as a goof, you just say, hey, looking for an egg producer. And that's going to make women mad. And they're going to be like, why is everybody doing this? Why is everybody calling me this? Well, it's this. And what'll end up happening is women will start pushing back against this stuff. Same thing here. A man that inappropriately tried to have the relations with women that weren't, willing, he decides, hey, you know what? Since anybody can identify as anything, I'm going to identify as female. And then they sent him to a women's jail. So then he doesn't have to worry about being around other dangerous men. He's just now around maybe other dangerous women. But he has the advantage because he's a guy. And guess what happens? Well, then he starts being harmful to the women there. If this happens enough, and I'm not saying you guys need to go to jail, but if for some reason you did end up going, I mean, if you look at the guy, all he literally did is put on maybe a little bit of lip gloss and a wig, and you're in. What if, and this is happening a lot actually, now it's happening a lot over in the UK and everywhere else. Ireland, I think, is the other one where guys are like, nope, totally identify as a woman, put me in the ladies' jail. Of course, no ladies are identifying as the guys and going over into their jails because that would be very dangerous for that person. But I'm okay with this. Let's keep going with it. Because what it'll do is it'll force them to say, this isn't working. How are we going to figure this out? And then they're going to be tied up in their own rules and legislation and laws, and things are going to get so crazy that it'll fall apart. And when it falls apart, they're going to go back to, well, what does his biology say he is? And just like that, all these issues are gone. Another one, this is from an Alyssa over on Twitter. She says, if you're a straight man, one of the best things you can do to support the transitioning women is to use the women's bathroom. If straight men were to cultivate a complete disregard for the bathroom stall sign, that avenue of gendered segregation in public life would become increasingly hard to enforce. Okay, so let's play this out. What she's saying is that men use the women's bathroom, and that way it'll force other women and other men and other people to just get over the idea of having separate bathrooms and then problem solved. Okay, let's play this out. Now, I wouldn't do this in Tennessee or a very other conservative area, but if you live in New York City or you live in LA or California or any of the other crazy places, let's play this out. What happens? You're in the mall, you need to go to the bathroom, just walk into the ladies' room, use the bathroom. Do it. And if a woman says, well, why are you in here? I identify as a woman. Even if you look like me, like bald, beard, just dressed in jeans, and because it's not about the clothes, it's not about how a person looks, it's about how they identify. I identify as a woman. Go in and use the ladies' room. If all the men did this, what would happen? Women would start freaking out and pushing back against this stuff, accelerating the end of it. There was a teen that's been accepted to Stanford, a very prestigious school, after writing Bravo Lima Mike, BLM, 100 times on an application. Now, it helps that he, of course, is a minority himself. But this was literally, he said, I submitted this answer to my Stanford application and yesterday, and I was admitted. And what's the photo of? Just this. What matters to you and why? There you go. This just got you into Stanford University. Congratulations, you've been admitted to Stanford. Let's accelerate this decline. Now, I'm not saying to literally do this, but you know something? What if I changed my name to Juan Valdez? Now, I don't have to have darker skin color, do I, to be Latino? I mean, are you going to ask for my DNA records? Are you going to ask for me to do a 21andMe test or something or other to prove it? Are you saying that my parents are not Latino? My name's Latino. I identify as Latino. And then all you have to do on a college application is just write something like that, and I get in. Now, I'm sure his grades were decent as well. Maybe his scores were. You don't send in photos, I don't think, with an application. And if they do, just go down and get a fake tan. Well, why did I get a fake tan? Because I identify as Latino. And people thought I had white privilege, even though I don't. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood that I was a minority, so I got a fake tan. Again, the faster and the more we do this stuff, the quicker everything falls apart. Again, not saying we should, but when you want to play by crazy rules, just like Trump did in the first segment there, or the first story, he played by their rules. 30 foot, okay. 30-foot flagpole's it, but I'm still going to find a way to get it 50 feet in the air, and now it's legal. So if women are given the advantage, if the LDHD TV community is given the advantage, okay, we can play that game too. And what happens when people start taking advantage of that? And maybe you could even say abusing the system when it comes to that stuff. That's the whole point. That at some point it will. So let's start taking advantage of it. We'll hasten it right along to its end, to where people will say, this isn't working, we need to find another way. And we'll keep messing with it and messing with it and messing with it until they go back to normalcy. Here's I think this doesn't have any sound. Here's a video of some girls that have just gone into a sunglasses store. And they're just, now this is probably in California, and they're just, throwing probably thousands, tens of thousands of sunglasses into a bag, and they're cleaning out the store shelves. Now, for those of us that are normal, we would say these women need to be prosecuted or stopped, but you know what? They're not. They just walk off, and there's several places that I've read that in California, the police won't even show up to this anymore because it's happening all the time. Now, am I advocating for you guys to actually go out and steal things? No, I don't. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you say, you know what? All right, if they're not going to prosecute anybody, I'm going to start stealing too. And everybody starts stealing. And then the minute a store gets a shipment of anything and they put it out on the shelf, you're just calmly standing there with your arms crossed, waiting, and they put the product on the shelf and you walk over and scrape it into a bag and walk out. How long does that store stay open? It won't. There's many, many stores that are already closing in California in these locations. And what happens if all the stores close? The area is no longer livable. Now, yeah, that probably means the crazies will move out of that area to another area, but they'll move somewhere where they'll actually get arrested for this. And then it's not a problem anymore. And the people that decide to stay in this area, what happens? They don't have anything to buy anymore. And they'll be the ones that initially supported this. They'll be the ones going to their city council saying, hey, you know what? We're voting you out because now all the stores are closed. You're literally destroying the city. That's what's happening. That's why everybody's fleeing out a lot of these cities. But what are you doing? You're speeding up the decline. I don't know I don't know what the answer is to all of this stuff. I really, really don't. I think we should push back against it. I don't think we should be having these shows for young kids. I think the laws need to protect kids. But what if everybody decided to homeschool? Like, not have kids unless the wife can stay home and homeschool the kids. And that way keeps the kids out of public education. Well, that means that the family unit becomes more conservative, more rare, but more conservative, more traditional. Kids aren't in school. Then what happens? Maybe the school systems start falling apart. Maybe there's not enough taxes. Maybe there's not enough reasons for the teachers, and there's no more hiring of teachers. And then, of course, the unions aren't making enough dues, so they start having problems. It's controlled chaos. That's really the way that we're going to have to fight back against this. I don't know what the right thing to do or the right way to do this. And many of you are like, dude, you're only helping break things down. Yeah, I know maybe that's kind of the point. That sometimes, when you have a rotten tooth and you can't fix it, you can't get it back to healthy, you yank it, or you remove the nerve and put in a false tooth or do a root canal. You rebuild it from inside out. Just have a complete fake tooth, maybe. Is the way to get out of this to help speed things up falling apart to where they get so ridiculous that even the people that support it now can see that, hey, this isn't going to work and we need to figure out something new. And we just keep breaking and resetting up the system until it goes back to normal. The video I did yesterday about women being unhappy, they're the ones voting for all this stuff. They're the ones voting for all the changes. They're overwhelmingly left-leaning. And the one story I didn't talk about it in this video here that I had pulled up, it's over on my Twitter page, is how women are voting overwhelmingly left. And the left are saying, let's bring in all the illegal refugees and make them citizens. And what's happening? All those refugees now are doing the old snuggle struggle, right? They're advancing, making advances on women and doing bad things to these women. And the women are complaining to the government. And what's the government saying? We like the refugees. We're going to allow them to stay and do all these bad things to you. And the end result is women vote for this, and then the bad thing happens, and the government's like, screw you, women. We don't care. We're going to keep going with this. Ultimately, what does that do? It either makes really bad times for those women, or the women say, I'm going to vote for something different. This isn't working out so well for me. And that's the whole idea of taking reality and smashing it into their face so hard that they realize this isn't going to work. We can't just dabble in this. We've got to get rid of it. I think that's when the family falls apart and kids fall apart and the education system falls apart and men don't work in areas anymore, and all the companies that hire all these women, the women decide, I don't want to do this rest of my life. I'm going to quit and go find a man or whatever. And the company doesn't have enough people to hire. Maybe we just need to tear it all down, make it break, make the system break, make it fall apart, and then rebuild it again the correct way it's been for the last 1,000 years. I don't know, but I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. I just think it's an interesting topic. You can fight against it and you can accelerate the decline at the same time. I think that is possible. So from here on out, I will identify as Jennifer. I also don't want to be 50 anymore, so I'm now a 36-year-old woman named Jennifer. And I'll just leave it at that. Do you think that they're going to have any problems when they want to push back against me and I use their own rules against them? You just misgendered me. How dare you, ma'am? It won't work. I mean, society won't work like this. Maybe it's time to just break it and start it again. For those of you over here on YouTube, join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com, where I do more crazy topics and, of course, censorship-free forums and all the good things, movie nights on Saturday night. And for those of us here on Locals, let's do a dating profile of the day.